Hey, Joe Latender here. In this video, I'm going to show you several different methods that you can use to finish vinyl plank or laminate up to exterior doors. There's not one method that is a fix for all, okay? So I have several different methods that I want to show you that you can use as options so that you can finish your plank off at your doorway and make it look nice. A doorway that it probably gets a lot of traffic. It will be seen the most. You want it to look nice, right? Well, here, let's watch. All right, so we're gonna do in front of this patio door here. Now, the way we're doing it with this particular patio door is we're gonna use end cap, which is basically a trim that has a square nose on it. You'd use this like in carpet areas. So the carpet would come against here and then the plank would end over here. But typically in these doorways, I like to use quarter round instead of this, but some situations it's not possible, and I just want to show you how to do it just in case this is the way you would want to do it. Now the nice thing about this is that this patio door dips in right here, so you can get a nice end. If this patio door was even with this wall and then you tried to use this to end it, it would be an ugly sight right there on the end where you had to end it if the patio door kept going here. Okay, I'm gonna stop and jump in here real quick. Now the best application to use this in is if you are installing plank over a concrete slab. Okay, the reason why is because it's gonna be easier for you to cut something like this in, stick this up against the patio door and then glue it in. Now the other method that I like to use along patio doors, which I will show you later on in this video how to do that, is I like to use quarter round if it's possible. Okay, well doing that when you're on a concrete slab, it's hard to attach that quarter round because most of the time your patio door is gonna be made out of aluminum or some kind of a hard plastic on the bottom that you're not going to be able to nail that quarter round into, and you sure can't nail it into the concrete, right, with a brad nail. Now you could silicone it down, but it can be messy, so this actually is really a simple solution to do this, and I know some people like that, so that's why I'm showing it. Now basically when you're figuring out how far you need to cut your plank away, you're just really trying to leave a gap that equals what this leg is and this other part that supports underneath on top of the concrete, okay? And then a little bit past, like 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Now this lip right here that comes past is about 1/2 inch, so you have a lot of play for your plank to be in here, okay? So I would just measure it, and that's where you're gonna come up with the number and come like 1/8 to 1/4 inch past. So we would wanna leave like 1 1/4 inches of a gap. If you look in here, you can see 1 1/4 inch gap is about what I'd want to leave for this particular end cap. And these, every manufacturer is going to sell this type of transition. Now these come with a track. And I'm not going to show you how to install these because I don't ever use these. So you can see that the track plugs into this. This is how it would bang into it if you were going to use this, and then you'd have to figure out exactly where to position it in there, and I just don't like to use them, and they don't work very well. A lot of times you break them, not the track, but the piece that you're trying to put into the track, because it's just not a very good system. So what I like to do is either use PL400, or I have a special glue gun that has special kind of glue sticks that you can use. Now these glue sticks are not something you're going to find at Walmart or Home Depot. They're a special order item. I will leave a link below. I'm also going to talk to you more about these later on, and also about this glue gun. But what I try to do is I'm trying to squirt a dollop of glue, like a mound of glue that's the size of a Hershey's Kiss. And I do this whether I'm using that glue gun or whether I'm using a construction adhesive like you're seeing here, where I put T-molding in this situation. I'm using the same exact method along this patio door. I like to use these glue sticks because they set up quick. It's got flexibility to it. I don't have to worry about weighting it down. It's gonna cure within 5 minutes, so it'll be nice and solid for me quickly. So the glue is actually going to end up touching this, getting into that track. But this glue has about 3 minutes of working time. Then I just go along and push this in, and if I need one person holding or put a little weight on it until later, that's fine. And and just have somebody come. It really doesn't take long for it to set. Okay, so we're at an exterior door here. I get asked all the time how you finish it. I already showed you how to do an end cap at an exterior door, but this is a situation where I would use quarter round, some kind of a base shoe. Now this is one that I usually don't use. This is one that came with the flooring. I don't like these. I like the real wood, but this matches the flooring, and so that's what we're going to install. But I usually like to use a little smaller one, but you can see I left my gap. Now I'm just going to stick this on to cover it. I already cut it. And then I'm going to try to nail down into that gap, because this is hard plastic, hard to nail into. If this was on concrete, you could just glue it. So I'm just using a brad nailer, and then we'll just go through and fill these little holes when we're all done. You're gonna see them. Now another method that I like to use versus quarter round is I like to fill in that gap with silicone. I'll leave an 1/8 inch gap there, and then we'll just get this full of silicone. Now the way you can do this is exactly like I'm showing you with this tub right here, where you put blue tape on the threshold and then blue tape on top of the plank, leaving the 1/8 inch gap that you're going to want to cover, so that you can get yourself a nice bead of silicone in there. I fill it so that it gets nice and full, and then I'll smooth this out with my finger, and when we're all done, we'll just peel this tape away. You can see how nice of a bead this is going to leave. You'll have the same result with your threshold. Now another patio door that I'm working on, you can see that gap there at the casing. This is a patio door that's flush with the sheetrock, and if you don't get this cut in correctly, you're going to have these gaps on the casing, and the quarter round will not cover that. Now this particular patio door had a base plate underneath it that was made of wood. I cut it flush with the threshold, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch out past both sides of the casing on the right side of that casing right there, and then I'm also going to cut some of the sheetrock away just so I can slide the plank in and get a little bit more room in there, so I make sure that everything fits in there nice loosely, and also so that I don't have any gaps when I cover it with the trim. I'm going to do the same exact method on the right side of this door, but you can see how I left that notch there, and now it will be covered with this quarter round. Now to do this, you might need to notch out your patio door on the right side of the casing. If you have a metal casing, you can use a bimetal blade to do this, and you can cut that away and it'll be just fine. You can always fill that gap in with some silicone. Okay, so now I'm just lining all of this plank up, making sure that the butt joint right here doesn't line up with the butt joint in this row. You can see it's right there. And I know it's hard to see, but the locking system is being lined up perfectly right here, so I know I'm sitting right on top of it. I want to show you another example here of what I mean. You can see a better angle of this. I'm just lining up the locking systems perfectly with one another, so I know that the plank on top is lined up perfectly with the one on the bottom. Now I'm just going to continue putting this plank down towards the end here past this patio door. Now to mark and cut this last piece, is all I did was I flipped that piece of plank around, I reversed it. So now instead of the groove facing me, the tongue was facing me, and then I marked that with a marker. And you'll see here after I cut this with my utility knife, which I'm just scoring this lightly with my utility knife a couple of times, and then I just snap that right off. Now I'll flip this piece back around so that I have the locking system facing the right way, and I just lock it together. Now I'm going to use a cheater board to mark these planks that I just laid out. Right now I'm just cutting off the groove off of this so I can use this little piece as a cheater board, and I'll talk to you more about this in a minute about how to make these. But I just want to show you how I'm using this to get underneath the jamb, and I'm getting past it on the left side there so that I make sure that I'm going to have that notch in there that I was showing you earlier, so that the quarter round will cover that up and we won't have any gaps along that casing. Now I've showed how to make this in other videos. Is all I do with the cheater board is I take the groove off. I cut the groove flush with the plank. And here's what it looks like before I cut it off. So I cut this off, flush with this. Now you can adjust this. You could leave some more of this on if you want to have a bigger expansion joint. This tongue here is about an 1/8 inch, and then I use a marker to mark. So by the time I get that marker next to it, we're looking at about a 1/4 inch expansion joint. But if you want to have bigger, you can just leave some of this groove on. But I cut it flush off. That's how I do it. So now you see how easy it is to make this cheater board and how easy it is to use it to get really precise cuts. I hope that this really helps you on your project. I know it will. This is like the #1 tool that I use on all of my vinyl plank installations, and you can see how easy they are to use and how precise your cuts are going to be. This is by far one of the best methods that I could show you as a professional to a DIY. Now I'm trying to put this plank in. You can see I have a little bit more of a difficult area here that I need to put together. I'm also working backwards here, meaning this is the first row that I started at, and I left it out so that I didn't have to use those spacers. To hold my floor, I use scraps that I screw down into the floor. I'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. Those scraps or those spacers are just ridiculous. They're super hard to use. But you can see I hooked on a scrap there. I'm trying to put that butt joint together, and I had a pry bar that I put down at the other end before I hit that towards the butt joint so that I could get it together. Now I'm using a pull bar here to pull everything together. I just slide it in where the gap is, and then we're going to hit it with this mallet to get all of this to come together. So again, you can see this takes a little bit of time to get all this together, but it goes pretty well, especially when you have the right tools. And these pull bars, they are very nice. You want to make sure that you get yourself a nice heavy duty pull bar. I'll leave a link below that you can click on to see which pull bar I'm using. But you can just see how nice this is to have and how easy it makes the installation when you have a good pull bar. And a good heavy duty mallet works really well with this too. Now you can see how I ran the plank past the right side of that. You can see how I notched it and how nice this looks now with the 1/4 round. Okay, so 1/4 round is what I like to use, okay, the most. As far as what I like to use at an exterior door. Now this is a 1/2 inch by 3/4, also known as a base shoe. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch thick by 3/4 tall. Now I like to use it because it's not as big and bulky as 3/4 by 3/4 1/4 round, right? It's not going to be as big and fat and bulky looking. So it's nice. It has a nice look to it. Now a lot of times what will happen when you have that door that is flush with the sheetrock, the trim next to it, if you have a trim that dives in a little bit and it gets thin, like maybe a 1/4 inch thick, well, this is going to be thicker, or this is going to be bigger and stick out past that trim. And so what you can do is you can take this and put it on a chop saw and just cut off a little bit of it at a 45 degree angle on the end. Now I still have part of the flat part on here, like maybe a 1/4 inch of flatness, and then I started my 45 degree. Okay, now I'll try to get a better close-up of this to show you, but then I would just stain the edge of this so that it looks nice. Now that's going to look nice. Now you can cut a return in this and then return some of the 1/4 round to the threshold of the door, but it's not really necessary. This honestly has a nice look to it, and it's what I like to do. Okay, so here's the glue gun that I like to use that you've seen inside the video. Now this is a high-end glue gun. You don't need to have the high-end glue gun like I have here. I have this one because I use it professionally, right? I not only for plank and installing transitions and things like that, I use it for carpet when I'm doing upholstery work. I also use it for wood floors. I can glue down pieces underneath cabinets, things like that. It really works great for me. I also use this though for other parts of the plank job, like securing the floor. If you've seen other videos of mine, I like to leave the very first row out so that we can use scrap pieces of plank and we secure those to the floor. If it's on a wood subfloor, I use screws. If it's on concrete, you can use this. Okay, so it saves you a ton of time, plus it stops you from using those horrible spacers that don't work, so your floor moves while you're trying to get started, which is the worst. It's just absolutely the worst. But anyway, this is a $100 glue gun. You don't need this, okay? You can use a high output glue gun like this. It's called AdTech, okay? It's a 200 watt glue gun, a high output glue gun, so that it'll continually keep squirting out the glue as you put the glue stick through, right? You're not going to have waiting time. Okay, it works really well and it fits those glue sticks. These are a 1/2 inch glue stick. It fits inside this gun. Now, I'll leave a link for it. This glue gun's like less than 25 bucks. Today it is anyway, okay? Who knows tomorrow with inflation, but this is also a Prime item, so you'll have free shipping on it, and chances are you're gonna see it wherever you're at in a couple of days. I know I ordered it and I got it in like 2 days. Now these glue sticks, these are also something that I talked about. There's a couple of different kinds of these. You can't get these at Walmart or Home Depot. These glue sticks are awesome. They're worth their weight in gold. They're meant to use in the situations that I'm showing you. And again, you can't get these from Walmart or Home Depot, okay? You have to order these. They have like a 3-minute open time on them, meaning when you squirt it on the floor before it dries, you have 3 minutes to get that covered up and stick your transition to it or whatever it is that you're going to be using to adhere this. Now, this is also something that you can use around the house. I mean, I use this around the house in lots of different projects, okay? I just fixed a cabinet door with one of them, or with this glue. The other thing is you can use a little bit of that glue to hold something while you're using other types of glue to be stronger, you know, like some wood glue, okay? It holds it instantly for you, so it's a nice option to have. So it's not gonna be a waste what I'm saying. If you had to buy these, you'd find other uses for them, trust me on that. Okay. Now I want to talk to you about something else. Some of you are going to have thresholds that need to be modified somehow. And if you can't modify them, you're just going to have to replace them, okay? You're going to have to bite the bullet and replace them and get something that's more square-faced or flat-faced so that your plank has a nice look up to your exterior door. I mean, these doors are used constantly, right? You're always going to see them. You want to make them look nice. So don't be afraid to pull your threshold out and replace it if that's what you need to do, okay? Some of those 1950s thresholds with the curves, or you'll find some that come down and they're barely at the very end of them, maybe an 1/8 inch. Just replace those thresholds if that's what you absolutely have to do, okay? If you can't modify them to do what you want to do. Trust me, you're not going to regret putting in the extra elbow grease into this. All right. I just want to pray for you right now. I pray that God sheds his never-ending grace on you and mercy. Okay? I pray he blesses you, your children, and their children's children. And I pray for this blessing in Jesus' name. Hey, I'm Joe Latender. I appreciate you watching my video. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Hey, God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.